All right, so for your multi-view drawing, or I'm sorry, your isometric drawing assessment, here is the image. This is posted for you on Google Classroom with the assignment. You do have over the holiday break to complete this. Maybe not a bad idea to do it, fairly early on. Give yourself a weekend, and I think most people can probably accomplish this in 15, 20, 30 minutes. You will have a day and a half also when you return from break. So I'm going to do the oblique and isometric, and I'm going to go steal some text that I've been using from up here and copy it. You can do it right on the same drawing. It's completely fine. And boy, how many times do you ever have a test where the person shows you how to do it? So couple of things you do have, all these other ones have been on graph paper, and you do have to kind of look around and piece some of these dimensions together. So and the other thing you'd probably want to make sure of, just what might help you not make mistakes, is this little polar clock looking thing down here. Remember, it should be on, and by default it's set to 90, 180, 270, 360. You want to go ahead and click this to 30, 60, 90, 120, and that will take the guesswork out of your dimensions. Otherwise, if you draw a line and it has to go in this direction, you would have to type in at length angle 150 or whatever. Okay, which you can go back to another video and see again. Anyhow, think about this like I said, a big block of wood or cheese or foam or anything else. We know that at its widest or longest point, it's 8. At its tallest point, it's 8, and its widest point, or the depth of the object, is where is that? 6. I had to look down here, so I literally had to go to 3 different locations to do this. So what I'm going to do, start with the oblique first, and I'm going to go over 8, and I'm going to go back 6. Now on this, consider that these holes, that everything where there's a hole is going to be centered, okay? And so now I can kind of start plugging away in different areas, or I can, I think what I would prefer to do here is just to go up the overall height, which is 8. See that I'm going to go over 1. That dimension is given to me over here. So I'm going to go over 1. And then it looks like, well, they don't tell me how far I come down, but they tell me that to this point right here, this shelf thing is 4. Well, if the whole thing is 8 and it's 4 from the bottom, it's also got to be 4 from the top. It tells me that this sticks out 4, but this is a thickness of 1, which means that that's got to be 3. And then I have a thickness of 1 down here also, which means that that can only go down 3. And that means that I must come over, what would that be at this point? 4, and drop it down. And the rest of this is going to just be simple copies. So I'll just go copy selection, and I'm going to drop it at every intersection along the way. This is very similar, just in a regular pattern, but it's completely the same principle as the stair-step drawing that you did right off the bat, okay? And then however you want to do it, you could copy everything from this side, or, which if you did it right, you know it's going to work over here, or you can just go ahead and drop these things along the way. And it looks like we're pretty close to done. Now, I said you have to assume in this that these circles, and it is a little fuzzy, they are diameters of 2. Okay, that's a diameter of 2. Both circles are. And I said you have to imagine, you have to think that they are centered in both directions, top to bottom, left to right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is find that center point. And the fact that I just said that, probably I don't even have to work that hard to do it. I could just draw a line from the midpoint of this to the midpoint of that. And I could do the same thing, draw a line from the midpoint of this to the midpoint of that. If you haven't updated your settings, or you're not on my template, remember you go to Object Snap Settings. That was Shift right click, and make sure you've got these settings correct. Go back to probably the first video I made, which showed you that. And at this point, I'm going to go back to Object Lines. And remember, since these are both on that 30-degree plane, right, neither of these will be a circle. So I'm going to use my ellipse tool. It asks me to specify the center of the ellipse. I pick right here, and I just type in two numbers. I type in the radius, which is 1, and hit enter, and then half of that radius, which is 0.5, and hit enter. And that will give me the correct type of shape that I need. And it's the same principle down here. So all I have to do now is go through a rotation. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to select rotate, I'm going to go down this way, and I'm just going to keep going. I kind of move out so I can see that 30-degree polar line, and I just move down, and every time I get to another one of those increments, I check to see if I'm achieving parallelism. And in that case, I am. I can see that hole appears to be parallel through there. And in this one, you can see something is still a little bit out of whack. So I'm going to go rotate, and I'm going to select this, and I'm going to just go every 30 degrees until that appears that that hole is flat. And then there was one other drawing that I did. I think it was the third or the fourth drawing for the project, where you had to come in here and you have to go at that 30. So I went to a quadrant, and I'm just coming over at that 30 degrees relative to the x-axis, and I type in the same length as the thickness of here, which was 1. And what I'm going to have to do now is copy this and put it right there. So when there's a gap, you have to assume that that means that you're seeing all the way through the thickness of the object. So in this case, I just trim and trim, and I'll probably have a little piece left over, and I sure do. Now, if this object up here was like 6 inches thick, you wouldn't see through it. But this is important. So how did I do it? Well, I'll try it again right here. I'm going to go ahead and draw a line from the quadrant downward, and I'm going to go 1 inch. If there's a gap, and that means, so there, in this case, there is no gap, so I cannot see the bottom of the object at all. And that's just based on positioning, okay? As far as the drawing goes, in terms of dimensioning, what I would like you to do is simply turn your dimension layer on. Make sure you come up here and you are on the aligned dimension on the drop down, and just select the dimension from here to here. And if yours came out 6, you're spot on.